Okay, we're getting word right now that Nancy Reagan's funeral will be happening this Friday. Of course, tributes are pouring in for our former First Lady today. She passed away yesterday morning of congestive heart failure at the age of 94. She will be remembered, of course, for bringing glamour into the White House, for being an advocate, for being an advisor, and, of course, a devoted wife to President Ronald Reagan. Here with more on the legacy of Nancy Reagan is Fox News star, the host of The O'Reilly Factor, and author of the New York Times #1 best-selling book, Killing Reagan, Bill O'Reilly himself. Bill, welcome.
Thank you, Trish. I appreciate you having me in.
Before we get to Nancy Reagan, and I want to talk to you a lot about that because you've done so much research into the Reagan's lives. Your thoughts just on what's happening in this election cycle, because we're watching right now what seems to be a real civil war just enveloping the entire Republican Party. Is that how you'd characterize it?
Yeah, I would say so. There's a lot of division in the party because of Donald Trump and Ted Cruz. It's not just Trump. The party doesn't really like Cruz because he doesn't really compromise much and put them in a difficult position on budgets and things like that. So that it's a three-way chaotic situation. You got the establishment people, and by that I mean John McCain, Mitt Romney, the so-called mainstream Republicans, all right? So they're used to doing things in a certain way. And then you have the Trump, which is, he's not really a Republican, he's a Trumpian, running a populist ticket. So he's not really, he has nothing to do with the party. I mean, literally nothing to do with it. Then you have Ted Cruz, who's an outlier in the Senate, so that you do have, all of this stuff at work, while the Democrats don't have that.
You say he has nothing to do with the party, and yet he's reshaping the party in a way that I wonder, Bill, will have pretty lasting implications. I mean, you think of the union vote, for example, that's historically gone to Democrats. He's out there talking about the negativity surrounding some of these trade deals. Could he bring some of those Democrats in if he, in fact, becomes a nominee?
Yes. Certainly can bring people in that ordinarily wouldn't vote for a Republican. He can bring in independents. He can create new voters who were alienated from the process, and that's his only chance. Because he is going to lose some establishment Republicans. They're not going to vote for him. They're going to stay home. And then the Democrats are going to demonize him as a racist. That's going to be their whole play against him. He's a racist. And so that, he does have a chance to add people to the Republican ranks as far as voting is concerned. But it is going to be a very intense situation if he gets the nomination, that's for sure.
It sure will be. Let me turn to Nancy Reagan now. Of course, the news coming over the weekend, 94 years old, she died. In your research that you did for your book, Killing Reagan, what do you think was some of the most exciting anecdotes, most special stories that you remember?
Well, first of all, I think that Nancy Reagan is the most fascinating character in Killing Reagan, even more fascinating than the president, because she changed so much. As a young woman, she went to Hollywood to try to, make it as an actress, and she didn't really do that, although her career wasn't that bad. I mean, other people run it down, but she was in a few films that were successful.
So that was a big deal in 1943 to be, a woman out there in Hollywood and doing your own thing.
And then she decided to basically find a husband who would provide for her, and she did. Here's Ronald Reagan, fresh off his divorce from actress Jane Wyman. I'm looking at page 50 on Killing Reagan right now. It's a picture of President Nancy Reagan, William Holden, the actor, and his wife, on the day they were married. And William Holden and his wife were the only guests at the wedding.
Why?
Nobody else was there. Because they got married quickly, not impulsively, but they just decided, look, let's just do this, and the Holdens are our best friends, so they'll be there as witnesses. So it wasn't a courtship in the traditional sense. But then, when Nancy Reagan figured out that her husband had this unbelievable charisma, and that his film career really wasn't going to go anywhere, she directed him, and at first she didn't want to, but then she figured it out, into politics, and she was the power behind the throne. There's no doubt about it.
She certainly helped create a hero then.
She did. She guarded him ferociously. and alienated a lot of people in the process. Betty Ford didn't like her. Rosalind Carter didn't like her. And she was very protective of who she called Ronnie. It was Ronnie and Mommy. That's what they called each other. But at the end of the president's life, when he left the White House, he was gravely ill, much, much worse than anybody knew. And Nancy Reagan really stepped up. And that's why I devoted the book, I dedicated the book to, and this is solely because of Nancy Reagan. My book dedication for Killing Reagan reads this way. This book is dedicated to all those who are caring for an elderly person. You are noble. And I did that because of Nancy Reagan, because she devoted all of her maybe close to 2 decades to protecting and nourishing her husband, who was gravely ill, in a very quiet, dignified way. So she became a hero. So in the beginning, she was kind of vain and maybe a little shallow, and then she evolved into being a hero. And this is a great, great American story that I don't think many people know about.
Well, thank you very much, Bill. Everyone should check out his book if they want to learn more.